welcome to the Pitch of Discontent. I am Owen, and Paige? Paige? Where's Paige? Paige is sick. She's not going to be joining us for this episode. We tried to persevere and to push this out as long as we could. We even took last week off. Sorry about that. But she's still crook, still coughing up a lung, and generally feeling like shit. So you're going to have to deal with me running this thing solo, which long-time listeners of the pod and newfound watchers of the pod on YouTube, shout out to you, will be familiar with. I've done a few of these solo, and I'm basically just going to monologue at you for half an hour to an hour and talk about music. So you're welcome, I guess. Yeah, cool. A couple of things to talk about before we jump into the weekly roundup tracks for this week. The Grammys wrapped up last night, which was fun. Kendrick Lamar won a Grammy for Not Like Us for his song about Drake being a PDF file. So that's fun. He was also wearing a Canadian tuxedo, which is just chef's kiss, masterstroke of genius. In the metal category of the Grammys, we had Spirit Box and Knocked Loose up for contention alongside Gojira. Gojira eventually took that one out, which, to be fair, they performed at the Olympics and had that very macabre metal performance. So winning an award for best metal performance kind of makes sense to me. Although I would have liked to see Knock Loose take it, just because I think they had the heaviest thing in contention there. I also would have been fine with Spirit Box getting it because they're great, and I think it's well deserved that a woman would win Best Metal Performance at the Grammys. But anyway, I digress. The real funny thing was that Courtney LaPlante from Spirit Box was on the red carpet and was being interviewed by someone, a journalist who shall remain nameless because I can't be bothered to look up their actual details, and proceeded to confuse Courtney with Poppy. And then when Courtney tried to correct her, said, no, you are. I'll find a clip of this interview and put it here.
I am Poppy, and I am really happy to be here, nominated with Knocked Loose. I really hope we win. This is
It's incredibly cringe, and I really wish that organizations like the Grammys would bother to vet the journalists that they're getting for media coverage, or at least make sure that they know who the fuck they're speaking to, because it's embarrassing. We all have the internet. We all have smartphones. It's not very hard to fact check this stuff, so you just look kind of like an idiot. But shout out to Courtney. She took it very, very well in her stride and pretended to be Poppy for most of the interview. So, yeah, what a legend. Sick. I also have another thing to note, which is that while we were away, we took that week off. And by the way, we've got a really big crop of songs to get through this week because of that. So I've got the absolute cream of the crop coming through for this week's roundup. So you're very welcome. Bring Me the Horizon dropped an Oasis cover of possibly the most covered song of all time, which is Wonderwall. And I don't even know how to describe it. I felt not apprehensive, perhaps maybe indifferent to the idea of Bringing the Horizon covering Oasis. Something about it just didn't really jazz me up. But I'm pleased to report that the song is actually great. It's a good cover. It is a good Bring Me the Horizon song, which is what you want out of any cover song. And it is tastefully in like a 2000s post-hardcore vein, which kind of eschews some of the stuff that was going on in post-human next gen, but it works well for Bring Me the Horizon, and it works well in the context of a Oasis song. So yeah, not quite sure how they pulled that off, but it's really, really good. And then the B-side single is a like remix of one of the tracks from their last records, and it's full of like trip hop, chill, lo-fi, like study beats type stuff, and it's really, really good. kind of captivating in a way that I don't think Bring Me the Horizon have ever been before. And I was thinking to myself while listening to it, if they somehow do this for an entire record, but also still be heavy and still be one of the biggest alternative bands on the planet, that might actually like be something. So yeah, watch that space. That'll be fun. What else do I have to chat about before the songs? Nothing. I think that's pretty much it. Look, thank you for riding with me. I know it's not very conversational. It's just me chatting to you, but people do this shit on YouTube all the time. So why not me? We're going to get into side A for this week. I got some tracks to run through, and thanks for sticking around. Yeah, Leah, let's go. Okay, side A, weekly roundup, episode 209. Let's fucking go. So, first up, I have a track from Belgian shoegazers Slow Crush. Been following these guys for a couple of years. They put out some really good records in the 2010s. They put out Aurora in 2018, and then a record called Hush in 2021, which is how I became familiar with them. They've been releasing stuff on Church Road Records in the UK. Shout out to Justine and Sammy from Church Road. You guys rule. They've put out a new single called Cherry, and this one comes after signing to Pure Noise Records for the US, so that's exciting for them. The band is led by Cheshire-born and then Belgium-raised singer and bassist Issa Holiday, and then she's joined by Yell Hard and Frederick Mewis, and I believe they were a trio, but are now a quartet. I'm not quite sure who the fourth member is, but he's in the promo photo, so shout out to you. The band has a quote here talking about Cherry and the reason behind the song. They describe the track as a wistful longing for something fresh and new, creating a stormy and effervescent anthology, evoking an almost thematic cascade of noise that echoes the end and bursts into new life. Cherry feels like the perfect first single, a new, fresh start. Shed your skin. Beautiful. Love that. These guys rule. It's shoegaze, it's heavy, it's dreamy, it's lush, it's good stuff. This is Slow Crush, Cherry. Beautiful. Just beautiful. We love a rollout, don't we, folks? Gorgeous stuff. This might be one of the most captivating songs that I've heard from Slow Crush. I've heard a lot of heavy shoegaze in my time, so I wouldn't say that there's anything here that's like reinventing the wheel necessarily, but it is lush. It is hypnotic. Issa's vocals are gorgeous and just kind of floating throughout that entire instrumental mix in the most like perfectly captivating way. There's a part in the middle where the track kind of like ramps right down and almost kind of enters like a chasm or like a lull, which I think is really, really good. And from a compositional standpoint, it allows everything to kind of like churn to a halt and allows you to kind of catch your breath and to kind of contemplate the previous 2 minutes of the track before things start to really ramp back up. And particularly towards the end, while I was listening to the track, I was focusing on these like kind of screeching, almost like siren wail guitar lines that are going on, while the bass and the rhythm guitar are really just like pounding you with these like waves of fuzz and noise. I think it's just a really interesting counterpoint. I think it makes for a very captivating song. And yeah, I love this one. I think Slow Crush are one of the best to do it. Definitely underrated within the, popular TikTok craze shoegaze space that exists right now. Hopefully with the Pure Noise connection, maybe we're going to get a new record. Maybe we're going to see something cool come out from them. And I would be stoked to see it. So Hell yeah. Let's move on to the second track that I have for you for this week's Side A of the Weekly Roundup. We last heard from Metal Hellraiser's Inhuman Nature a couple of years ago. They put out an EP called Under the Boot in 2022, which was dope, and put them on my radar for this kind of ongoing thrash revival that's been popular in the crossover space for the last, I would say, 15 years. They also did a split with another great band called Ninth Realm, which we featured in I think some of the early episodes of the podcast all the way back in 2023. And that split was awesome. Didn't hear anything from them in 2024. I think the band were quiet on that front, probably because they are recording their new second album. So the London band are putting out a record called Greater Than Death, and it's coming out on April 25th through the good folks at Church Road Records, who I mentioned before. And this one has a fairly standard kind of blurb. The band are taking their classic crossover sound, which they explored on their debut LP, and they're bringing in all these different layers of extremity. So there's a little bit of hardcore, a little bit of crust, death, doom, all of your metal flavors chucked in there with a very much crossover kind of anchor and foundation to the sound. They've toured with bands like Crowbar, Green Lung, Harriet, High Command, Grove Street, Puppy, more. They've done festivals like Bloodstock, Damnation, 2000 Trees. So they're well versed. They know what they're doing. They're just a really, really solid crossover thrash band. So if you like riffs, if you like fast songs, if you like things that have kind of a sense of adrenaline and blood pumping momentum to them, this one's going to be for you. I'm going to play the lead single from Greater Than Death. This is Inhuman Nature, Possessed to Die. Let's fucking go. We love thrash. We love a wandering lead. We love a stomping groove, a little kind of like breakdown kind of stomp section towards the end. Yeah, this shit rocks. These guys are so good at just keeping that classic kind of crossover thrash spirit alive. There's so much of this that I love, and I hear shades of a lot of the like big 480 stuff, but then a very like neo kind of modern approach to it as well, both in the production, the vocal recording, just everything. It sounds sick, sounds great. The battle jacket, long hair types would be stoked. The shorter hair, more I guess, I don't know, genre agnostic crowd would be stoked also. I think it's great as a first single from a new record. I think it's offering a very good taste of things to come. If I could speculate about what's to come from Greater Than Death without actually having heard it, if Sammy and Justine are listening to this from Church Road, send me the record. Thanks. I feel like I want the record to explore some of the more, I guess, like instrumentally curious aspects of their sound. So on Possessed to Die, you would have heard that like wandering lead that kind of like drifts over like the back kind of third of the song. I want more of that. I want more weird shit. I want more dive bombs. I want more flashy, expressive solos. That stomping groove is sick, so definitely more of that. But I just want more weirdness. I want my thrash to get kind of crazy. One of my favorite thrash records of the past few years is by a band called Vector. And I know that they went through like some member kind of like bullshit. And I believe the band is no longer a band, or it's just the singer and he doesn't have a band. I don't know. But their last record was fucking crazy. And it was like very progressive, insanely detailed and technical thrash with like a sci-fi bent and there was a big narrative about like interstellar war and aliens and shit. It's crazy. Loved it. Just make thrash weird is my main point. I will say in its favor, Greater Than Death has this like incredible album artwork of people kind of like eating each other's faces and beating the shit out of each other. It reminds me of Hazardous Mutation by Municipal Waste, which is one of the first like modern thrash records that I ever got into in my teens. And it instantly recalled that kind of energy for me, which is sick. I'm not sure if that's something that they were deliberately going for, but if it is, kudos to you, Inhuman Nature, because it rocks. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. If you're into any kind of modern thrash crossover, I feel like these guys are going to hit that sweet spot for you. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for the rest of the record. Go listen to the old stuff. Go check them out. Let's get into the next track for the roundup this week. Oh, this is a good one. So Deafheaven, that most curious oddity of the metal realm, are back once again. There's a lot to talk about here. So obviously Deafheaven popped off in 2013 with the release of Sunbather, which many people hold to be a kind of black gaze classic. And I don't dispute that. I don't think that's necessarily a wrong take. It's definitely the thing that put them on the map. But I would say that the follow-up record, New Bermuda, which came out in 2015, it's having its 10-year anniversary this year, is the superior record, because I think it allowed them to deliver on the hype and expectation that wasn't necessarily present prior to Sunbather, while also kind of using that pressure to push their sound even further. So the shoegazy stuff is even more gazy. The black metal stuff is even more black and dark and frosty and crazy. And the way that they seg you between those different things is very intricate, very detailed, very dialed in. The whole record rules. I've been listening to it this week, and it's been fun to revisit a record that I really enjoyed in 2015, and I'm probably enjoying even more now in 2025. The last Deafheaven record was 2021's Infinite Granite. And in doing prep for this episode, I didn't even realize that Infinite Granite came out in 2021. I could have sworn that record came out in like 2023, maybe. It didn't feel like it was 4 years ago, but time is a flat circle, apparently. So who fucking knows? That record was a polarizing one for the band's fan base, mainly because it just sanded away all of the edges of the band's sound and kind of just left mostly the shimmer and the gloss and the melodies. I don't think there's a single blast beat on the entire record. I don't think there's a lot of screaming or shrieking. It's very subdued, mostly melodic. It was a little bit of a kind of a heel turn for the band. I didn't hate the record, but I wouldn't say it's very memorable either. So all of this is preamble to say that the band are back. They have signed to Roadrunner Records, and their debut for that label is called Lonely People with Power. It's coming out on March 28th, and they're returning to producer Justin Mendel Johnson, who worked on Infinite Granite. But the taster for this record is a single called Magnolia, and guys, they're back. The blast beats are back. The shrieking is back. The crazy shit is back. Sounds like old Deafheaven. In fact, it sounds like New Bermuda Deafheaven, which, as I've just explained to you, is sick and is probably my favorite version of this band. So it's interesting that they're using the same creative team that pulled together Infinite Granite to deliver something this intense, this molten, this kind of like crazy. And it just proves that the band has the chops. They can still do the intense, insane, crazy, heavy stuff. They span multitudes. But I really, really enjoyed this new single. I think it's an incredible taster for things to come. I'm excited to hear the full record, to see where they might go with this, whether they're going to fuse some of the Infinite Granite sensibilities with this kind of like looking glass approach to Sunbather and New Bermuda and that era of the band. Who knows? Let's have a listen. You can make up your own mind. This is Deafheaven, Magnolia. So sick. I think like the last 2.5 minutes of that song might be the most thrilling Deafheaven have sounded in a decade ish, even counting New Bermuda. It's just perfect. It's exactly the type of shit you want. You have this barreling, relentless double kick, percussive kind of like bulldozer just moving the track forward. You've got the tremolos, you've got this insane riffage, but then when everything kind of locks into that fucking groove, you've got a big like stomping stadium chant kind of like quality to it. Just incredible. The vocals are like evil and grim, but still kind of have this kind of like tortured quality to them, which I would argue is kind of like a definitive quality of black metal. And Deafheaven weave that into this black gaze kind of like texture that they do so well. It's just sick. It's really, really good. The video for the track is like quite captivating as well. Just everything about it is great. And as a taster and introduction to this new record and this new era of the band, phenomenal. Chef's kiss. No notes. It's fucking dope. Can't wait for more. Let's move on to our next track for the weekly roundup. So back in November, we featured a band from the Midlands of the UK called Pigs, otherwise known as Pigs times 7. These guys are a noise rock staple. They're a heavy kind of metal staple, particularly in the UK. They put out a track called Detroit, which was this amplifier melting, skull bashing kind of track. I'm excited to say that the band have now announced a new album. This is their 5th. It's called Death Hilarious. It's coming out on April 4th through Rocket Recordings. Phenomenal cover art on this one. Some kind of psychedelic painting describing some kind of like crazy animalistic scene. I will say the album title definitely drew me in because, as I've mentioned on the podcast several times before, and I'm sure Paige has given me shit about it, I am a Cormac McCarthy nerd, and I love Blood Meridian by him, which is his 5th novel and his magnum opus. And there is a scene in that book which is quite famous for being this like multiple page long run-on sentence that describes the slaughter of some American soldiers by indigenous Americans. And there is a description in that scene of one of the indigenous warriors painted up with a bunch of like officer regalia from people that he's killed, so like trophies, but then odds and ends of different clothing, and then like makeup and like silly hats and feathers, and it's this mix of like old world and new world colliding in this visage of someone who's kind of like descended out of nowhere to murder and rape and pillage. And McCarthy says that they look like Death Hilarious, which is the title of this record. So if no one else picked up on that reference, I did. You're very welcome. I have an incredible bio from the band, which is available on their Bandcamp. It was authored by a writer called J.R. Moores, who is the author of a book called Electric Wizards. Came out in 2021, 2022. I've talked about it a bunch on the podcast with some of our earlier guests. One of the best music books that I've read in a long time. It's this detailed survey of the sonic tapestry of heavy music, kind of going back to Black Sabbath as the archetype, and then kind of working through the decades and surveying elements of psych, noise rock, metal, grind, all the different flavors of extremity and how they all link back and tie back to this idea of heaviness and heavy metal. Excellent book, highly recommended. JR's a great writer, and I was excited to see that he'd teamed up with Pigs to do the bio for this new record. And I've got a great little quote here to read for you. Death Hilarious is a diversely punishing record which shapeshifts through Sabbathian doom, grotesquely minimalist noise rock, and cyclical post-metal fortissimos. Pigs continue to push themselves too. Incongruous synthesizer solos appear where guitar histrionics would usually fit. Piano tracks lurk in the mix, adding near subliminal depth to the maelstrom. Stitches is like Motorhead trying to perform glam rock with a tipsy keyboardist. I know, sounds dope, right? Well, we're going to listen to Stitches. It's the lead single from the record following Detroit. I'm excited for this one. Love the title, love the cover, love the band. Sounds great. Heavy shit, rocks. This is Pigs, 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 Stitches. So sick. We love riffs, don't we, folks? Love a good riff, and that one's got some bangers on it, for sure. I particularly love about kind of like midway through the song where the like synth element comes through, where you would expect like another guitar layer to come in, and JR kind of talks about this in the band bio. I do like the comparison of like Motorhead jamming on something, but then they've just got like a glam keyboardist that's there just like peppering weird fruity touches over something that should be relatively bare bones and straightforward. It's very apt, it's very on point, and it absolutely works. It just adds a little bit of extra kind of dynamics to the song because it's really anchored by that lead riff, which is just super hypnotic and driving and captivating. Even in those verses where everything kind of pulls back and you've got that more plodding kind of rhythm, it still works. And then in those sections where the riff is really kind of hammering it home, it's just a good, solid, head-bangable riff, which is exactly what you want from doom, from stoner rock, from a little bit of noise rock. These guys know how to do it, and Stitches is evident of their skill in execution. I'm excited to hear Death Hilarious. I think it's going to be a sick record. I've enjoyed what Pigs have been doing for years. They're a very interesting band of guys who know exactly what they're doing. And we love competency, don't we, folks? We love competent people doing competent things competently. Excellent. All right, let's get to our final track for side A this week. I'm excited to talk about this one. So I have been patiently waiting for the return of Groove Titans Employed to Serve. These guys are one of the best bands from the UK. Sammy and Justine from Church Road Records are both in the band. I shout out Church Road pretty much every week on this podcast, so long-time listeners will know exactly who I'm talking about. The band have been playing shows over the last few years. They did like a short run with Lamb of God, and they've done like some headline runs and stuff, but they've been very, very quiet on the recorded front for some time. And I have suspected that they were working on a new record. I wasn't sure when that would see the light of day, but I'm very excited to say that we are going to get that this year. The record is called Fallen Star. It's coming out on April 25th via Spine Farm Records. I'm excited to hear this one. It was produced and mixed by Lewis Johns, who we have shouted out on this podcast many times before. He's worked with a bunch of bands, pretty much all of them exclusively on the Church Road roster. You got bands like Lowen, Pupil Slicer, Burner, Rollo Tomasi, many more that I can name. Lewis is one of the best producers in the game right now, certainly one of the best in the UK. So I'm sure he's bringing all of his skills to bear on this new Employed to Serve record. The album also has some coveted guest features. You've got Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage. You've also got friend of the show, Serena Cherry from Svalbard. And I've got a quote here from Sammy, who says that we wanted to fly the flag for heavy metal and the traditions that it holds, but at the same time, we want to play our part in taking things forward, which I think is the perfect way to put it. You want to contribute, but you also want to add something new. You want to keep everything moving forward. You want the genre to evolve and do things that it hasn't done before. Let's have a listen to the lead single from the record. This will give you an idea of what the band are working with. This is Employed to Serve, Atonement, featuring Will Ramos. Yes, let's fucking go. That was everything I wanted from New Employed to Serve, and then extra stuff that I didn't know I wanted, but I was excited to get nonetheless. Let's talk about the vocals. So, Justine sounds like a demon, and is sounding the best that she's ever sounded on record. But there's also the backing elements from Sammy, with like some of the shouts and then some of the clean stuff. And then you've got the added element of getting someone like Will to come in and do the guest feature. For those who don't know, Will is the vocalist of Lorna Shore, probably the preeminent kind of deathcore rising stars at the moment. Dude is basically inhuman with his vocal talent at this point, sounding like a, I don't know, garbage disposal unit, an alien kind of apparition. I don't know. Dude can do crazy shit with his vocal cords and can make sounds that I didn't think were possible from a human being. He's not necessarily going that ham with it here, but what's interesting is that he is doing some of his traditional vocals, some of his heavy vocals, shrieks, screams, but he's also doing cleans on this track. And it just adds this very kind of like epic, grandiose element to that clean chorus, which I wouldn't say has been missing from Employed to Serve, but it is a welcome change. And it does kind of just elevate the material, and it turns that fairly standard chorus into something really, really special. So when they drop it back into the heavy stuff and they're just chugging and Justine is out there just fucking grunting, it sounds fucking sick. The groove is great. The riffs are good. There's a little solo flair in there, which is fucking sick. The whole thing just sounds awesome. And I'm stoked for the band to be back. And I really just want more. I want to hear Fallen Star. Sammy, Justine, send me the record, please. Yeah, very, very stoked for this one. It's a banger. What else can you say? This brings me to the end of side A for this week. So if you're still here, thank you for riding with me on this solo effort that I'm doing for this week. Paige sends her apologies yet again, but hopefully if she beats this cough, she'll be back next week and we'll be running things like normal once again. If you would like to watch the rest of the show, you can head on over to the TPD Patreon. Sign up for the basic tier. You get access to the full show. I've got a bunch more songs to run through for the Roundup. I also have a feature album to discuss. So there's plenty more music to be had over there. Join the Patreon. We talk about music over there. It's a lot of fun. You get bonus content from the bonus episodes and the guest interviews that I do. I'm looking to add some video essays and extra content throughout the year, really trying to beef it out so that you get value for your money, because we all know that times are tough. Shit's tough. It's hard to shell out for anything, let alone a Patreon for a YouTube channel about music. So if you're a patron, I appreciate you. Thank you. I'll see you over at Side B. Everyone else, I'll catch you next week. Thank you. Subscribe now to the Pitch of Discontent Patreon to receive access to extended cuts of our bonus episodes, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content, monthly Patreon-only episodes, member-only votes, the TPD community chat, and much more. Go now to patreon.com/tpdpod and join for as little as $5 a month. That link again is patreon.com/tpdpod. Thanks for watching the show.